Alright guys, before we move on, if you want to practice these questions using artificial intelligence and see what mistakes you're making, what score you are likely to get in the test, I have got a great news for you. You can practice all these questions with AI on our app, LAPT Exam Practice app, which is available on iOS and Android as well. Plus, if you want to take a full scored mock test, one free full scored mock test is available in the app, or you can register on languageacademy.com.au. The scorecard you will get with the mock test will be as similar as what you will get in the actual test, and which will make it very clear what score you are likely to get. I'll highly recommend each and every one of you to take that mock test, see what mistakes you're making, how to improve, and what other things you need to work on. Lastly, we have got our branches in Australia and in India, and we do provide online classes. If you need any help, do contact us on the numbers below. Now you can continue with the video.
In the past decades, dramatic changes in diet and lifestyle have fueled a rampant increase in heart disorders. What is even more alarming is that heart conditions are no longer restricted to higher age groups, but affect young people as well. Heart disorders like strokes are the most commonly known today, and its symptoms include chest pain, weakness, and heart attack. The principal way a microbiologist studies microorganisms is by observing them through a microscope. A microscope is a device that enlarges objects using a process called magnification. The simplest form of a microscope is a magnifying glass consisting of a single lens. Some glasses are slightly bent at the bottom, causing a magnifying effect if held at a certain height over an object. While advances in agricultural science have always been critical to ensuring we help feed the world, its impact and importance is even greater now as population grows at a rapid rate and the availability of arable land steadily declines. Science and technology solutions are essential to meeting growing demand for food, maintaining market competitiveness, and adapting to land mitigating risks. The people we know resemble us in the most basic social characteristics, such as gender and educational background. Although our friends tend to be similar, many people are unaware of this because they did not pick their friends for their similarity. Our social connections depend first and foremost on whom we get to meet. This depends on the social contexts we enter and the activities we engage in. Dark matter is an elusive substance that provides the skeleton for what cosmologists call the cosmic web, the large-scale structure of the universe that, due to its gravitational influence, dictates the motion of galaxies and other cosmic material. However, the distribution of local dark matter is currently unknown because it cannot be measured directly. Currently, in South Australia, the majority of people who have a positive COVID-19 test result will stay in the community, in their home, or in supervised or supported care. A team of health professionals will carry out an assessment and ask you a series of questions, including identifying your symptoms, your medical history, and if you can safely isolate away from others. To overcome procrastination, you need to have an understanding of the reasons why you procrastinate and the function procrastination serves in your life. You can't come up with an effective solution if you don't really understand the root of the problem. As with most problems, awareness and self-knowledge are the keys to figuring out how to stop procrastinating. Enthusiasm seeks to contribute to a culturally and historically nuanced understanding of how emotions secure and ratify the truth of convictions. More than just pure affective intensity, enthusiasm is about something, a certainty, clarity, or truth. Enthusiasm takes its starting point in religion, the social arena in which the concept was first debated and to which the term still gestures. Connective tissue cells provide structural strength to the body and also defend against foreign invaders like bacteria. Two types of cells are native to connective tissue. Other cells migrate into connective tissue from the bloodstream to fight diseases. Special types of connective tissue are designed to be stronger and more rigid than most connective tissues. Identification and characterization of microorganisms is a key part of the management of food safety and quality, tracing contaminants and troubleshooting problems such as spoilage. Knowing how to identify bacteria or other unknown microorganisms that you have encountered can help to assess whether it poses a safety concern or is likely to be heat resistant, for example.
This unit provides a practical and theoretical introduction to what it means to be an IT professional today. Students will encounter a range of issues relevant to professional practice in the workplace, as well as an understanding of the wider responsibilities that professionals are called upon to uphold in society. The American Cancer Society recommends following a healthy eating pattern at all ages. A new school year is the perfect time to try some healthier options for your child. Whether you're packing a lunch box or making lunch at the kitchen counter, you can ensure they're eating healthy food that tastes good. A better government plan assumes that government has a positive role to play in improving people's lives but could perform this function far more effectively than it does now. What distinguishes the better government plan from the other two is that instead of changing the size of government, it reallocates spending in ways designed to improve government performance. Thomas Edison used his access to the railroad to conduct chemical experiments in a small laboratory he set up in a train. During one of his experiments, a chemical fire started, and the train caught fire. The conductor rushed in and struck Edison on the side of the head, probably furthering some of his hearing loss. A dead language may still be studied through recordings or writings, but it is still dead or extinct unless there are fluent speakers. Although languages have always become extinct throughout human history, they are currently dying at an accelerated rate because of globalization. Many projects are underway aimed at preventing or slowing language loss. Usually, the female of the species invests more in parenting. Females of many species choose their mates based on certain characteristics, such as large canine teeth in a male baboon or flashy tail feathers on a peacock, which in turn means those traits will be passed on to their male offspring. Biologists call this process sexual selection, which is related to natural selection. There are many benefits to bilingualism and exposure to multiple languages. Children who learn multiple languages learn to be sensitive to their conversation partners. They make word and language choices based on their knowledge of others. These are sophisticated social decisions that show advanced social skills. The Spanish language has a rich and complicated history. It has navigated the rise and fall of great empires, has been a symbol of cultural identity, and has both been used as a tool of unity and caused considerable divisiveness. Today, it is the world's second most spoken native language and is used by people in all corners of the globe. In a normal eye, the light rays come to a sharp focusing point on the retina. The retina functions much like the film in a camera. It is responsible for capturing all of the light rays, processing them into light impulses through millions of tiny nerve endings, then sending these light impulses through over 1 million nerve fibers to the optic nerve.
Long isolated from Western Europe, Russia grew up without participating in shared developments like the Reformation. Russians took pride in their unique culture and found dubious value in foreign ideals. As a result, Russia is the most unusual member of the European family, if indeed it can be considered one at all. This question is still hotly debated, particularly amongst Russians.
Canada's first ever poverty reduction strategy is built on the vision that all Canadians should be able to live in dignity. It is also built on the belief that all Canadians deserve to be treated fairly and fully participate in the development of their communities. To be effective, the strategy must have transparent indicators, clear targets, and tangible actions.
A lecture tends to be a one-sided class where you and your fellow students will sit and take notes while a lecturer talks about a specific topic or gives a presentation. This class is information heavy, so taking notes is essential, and there may be little time to ask questions. Lectures are the main method for your university to teach you the necessary material. Designers of new nuclear systems are adopting novel approaches in the attempt to attain success. First, they are utilizing a nuclear fuel cycle that encompasses steps from the mining of ore to the management of wastes. Second, they are evaluating systems in terms of their sustainability, meeting present needs without jeopardizing the ability of future generations to prosper. When your hands and feet itch, the right treatment can bring you some relief. How you treat the itching, though, depends a lot on the cause of the problem. It may just be dry skin, which can be brought on by winter weather or too much scrubbing. But sometimes, itchy hands and feet can signal another health condition. Gender inequality is one of the oldest and most pervasive forms of inequality in the world. It denies women their voices and devalues their work. Despite some important progress to change this in recent years, in no country have women achieved economic equality with men, and women are still more likely to live in poverty. Like coffee, plain tea contains just a couple of calories per cup and no sugar, but what's added in it can change that situation. A medium sweet tea and a large iced latte from fast food restaurants both pack about 7 teaspoons of sugar. However, the American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons for the whole day. The benefits and disadvantages of globalization are the subject of ongoing debate. The downside to globalization can be seen in the increased risk for the transmission of diseases. Globalization has, of course, led to great good, too. Richer nations now can come to the aid of poorer nations in crisis. Increasing diversity in many countries has meant more opportunity to learn about and celebrate other cultures. Advanced Robotics is the international journal of the Robotics Society of Japan and has a history of more than 33 years. It is an interdisciplinary journal which integrates publication of all aspects of research on robotics science and technology. Advanced Robotics publishes original research papers and survey papers from all over the world. A typical fence with a few wires allows most animals, such as lions or wild dogs, to go over, under, or through it. For larger mammals, such as elephants and giraffes, we will create large fence gaps that consist of a sloping, loose rock wall. Because of rhinos' short, stubby legs, they are unable to scale these rock piles. Being able to understand and interpret facial expressions is a big part of nonverbal communication skills. There are often times in conversations when just listening to the words that someone is saying will only tell you half of the story. Words don't always match how we feel, and our facial expressions often have a habit of giving us away.
Since their emergence, films have played a significant role in the lives of people around the world. Movies have the power to share new ideas and teach lessons about the past or future. Sometimes films only exist to entertain us. Just like there are many different styles of art, there are many different styles of film. Lawmakers are pushing a plan to fight what they perceive as a threat to democracy: the sharp decline of local news coverage. The United States has lost 1/3 of its local newspapers in the past decade. Those that remain are operating with far fewer reporters than they used to, as more than half of total journalism jobs in the United States have disappeared over the same period. Bananas are rich in the mineral potassium. Potassium helps maintain fluid levels in the body and regulates the movement of nutrients and waste products in and out of cells. Potassium also helps muscles to contract and nerve cells to respond. It keeps the heart beating regularly and can reduce the effect of sodium on blood pressure. Potassium may reduce the risk of kidney stones forming as people age. Most rocks are made of minerals containing silicon and oxygen, the most abundant elements in the Earth's crust. There are 3 kinds of rock: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Igneous rocks form when molten rock cools and solidifies. Sedimentary rocks originate when particles settle out of water or air. Metamorphic rocks result when existing rocks are changed by heat or pressure. Strong literacy aligns with the ways that individuals learn and socially interact. It forms the foundation for a lifetime of communication with family, peers, and employers. Ensuring strong reading and writing skills in the early stages of a child's development is vitally important to preventing problems later in life, such as unemployment, societal disconnection, and even justice system involvement. Despite the youthful outward appearance, inside the cat will be getting older. It is much easier to understand how to manage our cat's lives, health, and behavior if we can associate their age with an equivalent of our own human years. It has often been suggested that we simply need to multiply a cat's age by 7 to get a comparative human age. One of the benefits of watching the television shows is that you will get to learn and appreciate the different cultures. As a movie enthusiast, you will watch different movies of different actors who originate in different countries. This will give you a wider perspective of the various cultures, and you are likely to appreciate the contribution being made by individuals in different parts of the world. Stakeholder acceptance and use of analytics depends on their trust in the data. End users and executives don't always think about the behind-the-scenes work and preparation that went into a dashboard, but they do have an intuitive grasp of, and even an emotional connection to accurate data, making obviously inaccurate data a real challenge to overcome. There is ample evidence that toy play is a very important aspect of child development. Children of all ages enjoy playing with toys and the different roles they play in their fantasy and make-believe games. But toys are more than simple playthings. Many toys offer hands-on learning opportunities that can instill basic skills that will benefit them for the rest of their lives. Breaking habits is very difficult. The easiest way is to control your environment so that you do not encounter the cue which triggers your habit. It is difficult to break any habit, even when you are motivated to do so. If you are ambivalent about breaking it, then you will be less likely to succeed.
It is difficult to tell whether the speaker approves of Hemingway's lifestyle or not. He was famously macho and spent a lot of time hunting wild animals, going to wars, and getting into fights. All these things got into his books, and the speaker thinks that this is not necessarily a good thing, as it means that too many people prefer to read about his life than read his books. Howard believed that all clouds belonged to three distinct groups: cumulus, stratus, and cirrus. He added a fourth category, nimbus, to describe a cloud in the act of condensation into rain, hail, or snow. It is by observing how clouds change color and shape that weather can be predicted, and as long as the first three types of cloud keep their normal shape, there won't be any rain. A recent trend in the entertainment world is to adapt classic works of literature for either TV or movies. One argument is that this is to everyone's benefit, as it introduces people to works they might otherwise never have, but is rarely done successfully. Roman writers and orators began to expand their imaginative and intellectual horizons and refine the Latin language through the study of Greek literature. Early Roman literature had two kinds: the recording and examination of public life and behavior through life stories of famous men, and the particularly Roman art of satirical comedy and drama. Globalization has affected what we eat in ways we are only beginning to understand. Modern food production no longer related to our biological needs, but is in direct conflict with them. The relationship between diet and our fertility, our cancer, heart diseases, and mental illness is becoming clear. Yet much of our food is nutritionally bankrupt. Traditional divisions of domestic work are understood to persist because of the strong association of the home with femininity and paid work with masculinity. To challenge who does what in the home is arguably tantamount to challenging what it is to be a woman or a man. With a population of only just over 30 million living in the world's second largest country, Canada is justly renowned for vast tracts of wilderness untroubled by pollution, either from industry or from intensive farming methods. A major conservation issue is the battle to stop the logging of virgin forest in northern Ontario and on the west coast. Once you have picked up general topic for your paper, you need to come up with a thesis. Your thesis is the main and focal point of your paper, and it's the position you'll take on your particular topic. Formulating a strong thesis is one of the most important things you need to do to ace your paper. As to the Industrial Revolution, one cannot dispute today the fact that it has succeeded in inaugurating in a number of countries a level of mass prosperity which was undreamt of in the days preceding the Industrial Revolution. But on the immediate impact of Industrial Revolution, there were substantial divergences among writers. Stars are born in nebulae, massive clouds of gas and dust. Over millions of years, gravity pulls the material together to form a protostar. As nuclear fusion begins, the star shines. Eventually, it may expand into a red giant and end as a white dwarf or supernova.
History rubs shoulders and often overlaps with many other areas of research, from myths and epics to the social sciences, including economics, politics, biography, demography, and much else besides. Some histories are almost pure narratives, while others go in for detailed, tightly focused analyses of, for example, the parish records of a Cornish village in the 16th century. There are many kinds of pond, but nearly all are small bodies of shallow, stagnant water in which plants with roots can grow. Water movement is slight, and temperatures fluctuate widely. The wealth of plants ensures that during daylight hours, oxygen is plentiful. However, at night, when photosynthesis no longer takes place, oxygen supplies can fall very low. Before the time of Alexander the Great, the only Eastern people who could be compared with the Greeks in the fields of science and philosophy were from the Indian subcontinent. However, because so little is known about Indian chronology, it is difficult to tell how much of their science was original and how much was the result of Greek influence. In the second quarter of the 19th century, a rapidly growing middle class created a great demand for furniture production. Yet at this stage, while machines were used for certain jobs, such as carved decoration, there was no real mass production. The extra demand was met by numerous woodworkers. Mass production came later, and the quality of domestic furniture declined. In the Middle Ages, the design and use of flags were considered a means of identifying social status. Flags were, therefore, the symbols not of nations, but of the nobility. The design of each flag resembled the devices on the noble's coat of arms, and the size of the flag was an indication of how high the owner stood in the nobility. Mass strandings of whales are a recurring issue in Australia and New Zealand. In recent years, multiple events have highlighted the severity of this problem. For instance, in April 2024, around 160 pilot whales stranded on a Western Australian beach, prompting a significant rescue operation by marine biologists and wildlife officers. Variations kept the genre alive. From the mid-19th century onwards, when mass literacy grew, adventure became a popular subgenre of fiction. Although not exploited to its fullest, adventure has seen many changes over the years, from being constrained to stories of knights in armor to stories of high-tech espionage. This time, the university is running a series of workshops for final year students on how to do well in interviews. These sessions will help participants prepare effectively for and perform at their best during later job interviews. The workshop tutors have an excellent record of success in helping students acquire the positions they desire. A team of international researchers has uncovered a fascinating phenomenon. In response to rising global temperatures, Himalayan glaciers are actively working to preserve themselves by cooling the air in contact with their ice surface. However, it remains unclear how long these glaciers can continue to fight back against the effects of climate change. The magnetic field is a vector field. At each point, it has a magnitude and direction. The direction is defined as the direction of the force that a magnetic north pole would feel at that point. Since like poles repel and opposite poles attract, this means that the magnetic field goes away from the north pole of a magnet and towards the south pole.
To thrive, cities must lean on nature. That means having open green spaces and interconnected waterways to prevent floods, green roofs and walls that reduce temperatures and produce food, and forests planted as greenbelts to oxygenate urban areas and regenerate ecosystems.
A crew of scientists voyaged by ship from the southern tip of Chile into the frigid Antarctic to search for clues to one of the great unknowns of climate change. They planned to crisscross a remote patch of sea near the spot where a year earlier another crew had injected a tankful of an inert chemical 1 mile below the surface. Imagine living all your life as the only family on your street. Then one morning, you open the front door and discover houses all around you. You see neighbors tending their gardens and children walking to school. Where did all the people come from? What if the answer turned out to be that they had always been there? You just hadn't seen them. The Founding Fathers established constitutional protections for the press because they understood that leaving the watchdog function to partisan politicians wouldn't necessarily serve the public interest. Both sides have too many incentives to preserve the status quo and ignore problems that elude quick fixes.
This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end. It contains many different adventures, and the path you take will depend on the choices you make along the way. The success or failure of your mission will depend on the decisions you make, so think carefully before choosing. A national study into fraud by bookkeepers employed at small and medium-sized businesses has uncovered 65 instances of theft in more than 5 years, with more than $31 million stolen. Of the cases identified by the research, 56 involved women and 9 instances involved men. However, male bookkeepers who defrauded their employer stole 3 times, on average, the amount that women stole. The department determines whether or not the candidate has passed the examination. In cases where an appearance for the final public oral examination would constitute a substantial financial hardship for the candidate, the Director of Graduate Studies may recommend to the Dean of the graduate school that the examination be waived.
Companies will want to be known not just for the financial results they generate, but equally for the imprint they leave on society as a whole. First, ensuring that their products contribute positively. Second, operating in a way that approaches a net neutral impact to the natural environment. And third, cherishing their people. When we recycle, used materials are converted into new products, reducing the need to consume natural resources. If used materials are not recycled, new products are made by extracting fresh, raw material from the earth through mining and forestry. Recycling helps conserve important raw materials and protects natural habitats for the future. Researchers have found that divorce has different kinds of negative impacts on the planet, including higher demand for resources and a lower rate of efficiency in the use of household resources. People have been talking about how to protect the environment and combat climate change, but divorce is an overlooked factor that needs to be considered.
Electronic discourse is one form of interactive electronic communication. In this study, we reserve the term for the two-directional texts, in which one person using a keyboard writes language that appears on the sender's monitor and is transmitted to the monitor of a recipient, who responds by keyboard. But they did find something that had a much bigger impact on wildlife: habitat quality. The best predictor of wildlife abundance was not human activity, but factors like forest connectivity, nearby housing density, and the amount of adjacent agriculture. The results were published in the Journal of Applied Ecology. Where there are effects, there are often side effects. The car is a boon to mobility, but can lead to obesity, injuries, deaths, and pollution. Burning fossil fuel may keep economies going, but wrecks the climate in the long run. In a similar way, there are side effects to information technology in education, settings from childcare to the classroom to the lecture hall and beyond. Weakness in electronics, auto, and gas station sales dragged down overall retail sales last month, but excluding those three categories, retailers enjoyed healthy increase across the board, according to government figures released Wednesday. Moreover, December sales numbers were also revised higher. Trump has threatened to declare China a currency manipulator, but experts say he has little legal or economic basis to take such a step. He has also threatened to impose a tariff of up to 45% on Chinese imports if Beijing doesn't behave, a move that could lead to a trade war and damage the economies of both nations. Networking is easy and fun because it taps into this human predilection to talk about ourselves when asked. Consider successful networking as little more than the process of guiding a person to tell you about his life, what he's doing, the company that employs him, and his current industry. The second group that is particularly vulnerable are night shift workers, and the third group that is particularly vulnerable are people with sleep disorders, particularly sleep apnea. 1 out of 3 men and 1 out of 6 women have sleep apnea, and yet 85% are undiagnosed and untreated, and it more than doubles the risk of crashes. It's not that human activities didn't impact wildlife at all, of course. Heavily hunted species like white-tailed deer, gray squirrels, and raccoons were photographed somewhat less often in hunted areas. Coyotes showed up more often in hunted areas. While most species didn't avoid hiking trails, the predators actually preferred them. History rubs shoulders and often overlaps with many other areas of research, from myths and epics to the social sciences, including economics, politics, biography, demography, and much else besides. Some histories are almost pure narratives, while others go in for detailed, tightly focused analyses of, for example, the parish records of a Cornish village in the 16th century. The root systems of vegetative cover hold soil in place and prevent wind and water erosion. It also ensures its supply of organic matter from dead leaves and the dropping of animal waste. The vegetative cover also shelters the soil from excessive heat from the sun. It helps to reduce evaporation and retain soil moisture needed for the breakdown of organic matter.
I have scored 73 in my PTE in only 10 days.
I achieved my desired score just in 20 days.
My desired score.
Desired score.
My desired score.
Desired PTE score.
Desired score. Desired score. Desired score.
Desired score.
अपना डिजायर स्कोर लैंग्वेज एकेडमी तो अचीव किया है।